Welcome to today's episode of the Learning English Through Bible podcast. We're starting with something incredibly powerful, John chapter 1. This chapter begins with one of the most famous lines in the entire Bible. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, think about that for a second, not just the meaning, but the structure. In English, when we say in the beginning, we're referring to the very start of time. It's a poetic, deep expression, but it's also grammatically simple. A prepositional phrase followed by a verb, then we hear was the Word. Notice how was is used past tense, singular. It tells us this word already existed before anything else. And then the repetition. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is a beautiful way to emphasize identity and relationship. From a language point of view, it teaches us how English uses repetition to build emphasis and understanding. From a spiritual point of view, it's a revelation. Jesus, the Word, existed before creation and was one with God. As we explore this chapter together, we'll uncover both biblical truth and powerful English tools that you can use to grow in your language skills and your faith. If you're ready to dive deeper into this journey of learning English through Scripture, make sure to hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who would love to study the Bible and improve their English too. Let's keep going. Verse 3 says, "Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made." This is a classic example of parallel structure in English, where two parts of the sentence mirror each other for emphasis. This verse teaches us about creation, but it also teaches us grammar. The phrase "all things were made" is in passive voice, meaning the focus is not on the maker, but on the things created. Then we hear the contrast. Without him nothing was made. The word without is a preposition that expresses the absence of something. It's very useful in everyday English. You can say things like without help, without money, or without peace. So here we learn that literally everything was created through Jesus. That means your life, your mind, your voice, your ability to speak English, it all started with him. When you speak, when you learn, when you grow, all reflects the creativity and design of the Word. Learning that truth changes the way we see language. It's not just something we use to pass a test. Language becomes something holy, something we were made to use for understanding and sharing truth. If this helped you connect grammar and faith in a new way, pause for a moment, leave a comment with your thoughts. And let's continue this journey together, verse by verse, phrase by phrase. Now, let's focus on verses 4 and 5. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This is such a poetic passage, and it's also a lesson in how English builds contrast. We have light and darkness, life and death, big, deep themes that are expressed in short, simple phrases. In him was life uses the past tense was again and shows us that life itself existed in Jesus. Then the metaphor, that life was the light of all mankind. This isn't about literal light, like a lamp. This is symbolic. Light here means truth, clarity, understanding. English often uses physical objects to explain spiritual ideas. The verb shines is present tense, showing ongoing action. The light of Jesus keeps shining, even today. And this is followed by a powerful contrast. The darkness has not overcome it. The phrase has not overcome is present perfect tense, which in English expresses an action that began in the past but is still true now. It reminds us that darkness tries to win, but never does. When we read these verses, we don't just grow in our faith, we grow in our ability to see how English communicates hope, action, and truth. If the light of these words inspired you, please like this episode, subscribe to the podcast, and tell us, how does God's light shine in your life today? Verse 14 is one of the most significant moments in the chapter. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Here we see Jesus, who was with God and was God, coming into the world in human form. The phrase became flesh is short but powerful. In English, became is a linking verb that shows transformation. Flesh simply means a human body. So, the Word didn't just appear, he became like us. Then we read, made his dwelling among us. That means he chose to live here, with people. Dwelling is a noun that means a place where someone lives. You might hear it in phrases like temporary dwelling or a peaceful dwelling. So Jesus made earth his home, even though heaven was his original place. And what's even more amazing is what comes next. We have seen his glory, have seen his present perfect again. It connects a past experience with present understanding. Glory is a word full of power, beauty, and divinity. It's the visible presence of God. When we speak English and reflect on these words, we're not just learning vocabulary, we're stepping into a story that continues to change lives today. If this verse opened your eyes to both faith and English structure, take a second to comment the word glory below and tell us what it means to you today. John chapter 1 also introduces us to John the Baptist. In verses 6 to 8, it says, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light. Let's break that down in terms of both language and message. First, there was a man is a basic English sentence structure. Subject plus verb plus article plus noun. It's simple, but it works. Then we hear sent from God, a passive phrase that tells us who gave John his mission. To testify means to speak truthfully about what you've seen. In court, people testify to facts. In the Bible, it means telling the truth about Jesus. Concerning that light means about that light. The word concerning might sound formal, but it's very useful in writing. It means related to or about. John the Baptist had one job, to point people to Jesus, the true light. And that's our mission too. When we learn English using the Bible, we're not just improving vocabulary, we're learning how to point others toward truth, peace, and salvation. If you feel called to be a witness for truth through your English journey, type I am a witness in the comments and share this podcast with a friend who wants to learn too. Let's end with verse 12. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. This verse is packed with English lessons and deep theology. First, the structure. Yet to all who did receive him, this shows contrast, yet means something unexpected is coming. Then we see the verb did receive, which uses did for emphasis in the past tense. It's like saying, yes, they really received him. Then, to those who believed in his name, that's an example of a relative clause phrase that gives more information about the people we're talking about. And finally, the promise. He gave the right to become children of God. In English, the right is a noun meaning a special power or permission, and to become is an infinitive verb that expresses change. This means if you believe, you don't stay the same. You are adopted into God's family. What a beautiful way to end a chapter and a podcast episode by remembering that you are not just a learner, not just a listener, but a beloved child of God. If this truth touched your heart today, comment "Child of God" below. Save this episode and come back next time as we continue learning English through the Bible together.